Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to start off without much waste of time because I have some internet challenge. Good afternoon, especially to our professor, our immediate past Vice Chancellor, Professor Abdallah Badamu. I've already welcomed our emeritus professor, Professor Godwin Sogolo, and on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters, I say a hearty welcome to everyone at the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies of the National Open University of Nigeria. The center, like I've always said, was established for this purpose to examine issues, global issues, as well as issues concerning migration. And it's been on now for almost 3 years. I think it's about 3 years now that the center has been started by between humanity and the future. And our mission is to provide sustainable leverage for interdisciplinary research in migration and global studies. And we have some core mandates. Today we have before us a scholar who is going to talk to us about the different perspectives and diverse actors in migration in parts of the West African drylands. And that is the person of Dr. Miriam Liman from Bayero University, Kano. Dr. Liman is actually from Katsina State, but had all his 3 degrees in geography. All her 3 degrees in geography from Bayero University, Kano. And she is a staff in her alma mater in the Department of Environmental Management, Faculty of Health and Environmental Sciences in that university. And currently she's the Deputy Dean, female, at the Deanery of Students Affairs. Her research interests are in climate change, migration, and gender studies. And our presenter, like I said, had all the degrees from Bayero, and of course her secondary school and early school days all in Kano area there. She actually went to Federal Government Girls College in Bakori, and then also another school in Kaduna, all her trainings and degrees from the north. So she's a grandmother, a very young looking grandmother. I'm very proud to see her as a grandmother. And I've told you that she's very much into climate change and soils, as well as issues in development, that is including gender, migration, health, and environmental issues. And she's a member of many bodies, many professional associations. Member of Environmental Management Association of Nigeria, member Association of Nigerian Geographers, member American Association of Geographers, and the list continues. And she's also well published. So I want us to listen to this scholar who is going to be unveiling many things to us this afternoon. And her topic, like I said earlier, is the different perspectives and diverse actors of migration in parts of West African drylands. So I welcome you, Dr. Miriam Liman, to go ahead and give us your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Said the topic is different perspectives and diverse actors of migration in some parts of West African drylands. So due to the geophysical position of Nigeria and of course the socio-economic postures of Nigeria and northern Nigeria and southern Niger, we are prone to devastating impacts of floods due to so many reasons. And we have vast land resources, but we are constrained by desiccation and aridity. which leads to other effects such as loss of arable lands and food insecurity. And so it is important to understand trends that come with these constraints and to know how the mitigation and adaptation strategies employed by different communities. So migration in its various forms are common responses for coping with and adapting to economic and environmental hardships, and also stresses and risks associated with day-to-day living. Cities are perceived to be centers of economic growth and employment opportunities for migrants. So people tend to move to cities, so we have urban migration, rural-urban migration, and intra-urban flows. Migration is mainly driven by the search for better opportunities, including employment and higher wages, but also by poverty in the areas of origin, which are climate change or other issues have taken over. Immigrants and migrants usually derive from the lower socioeconomic groups, so they experience greater level of poverty, and that makes their social conditions precarious. So while conflict and generalized violence may drive migration in certain areas, in these particular areas that we're talking about, environmental factors play a great role, and these include land degradation and desertification, and that we know all relates to issues in climate change. Rural-urban migration is a common feature of many developing economies, and as people travel to larger cities in search for better employment opportunities, that has been established in literature that people move to areas for greener pastures. So the cities of Kano, Katsina, and Daura in northern Nigeria receive migrants in multitudes throughout the year from neighboring Niger Republic. The dominant part of the Nigerian dryland livelihood structure is totally dependent on rain-fed agriculture. Hence, livelihood security is strongly reliant on rainfall distribution and patterns. So we know that migration has drivers. There's the push and the pull, in southern Niger, we could say the push could be searching for greener pastures. Farmers here rely solely on seasonal crops for their livelihood. So they move away to increase their income, to mitigate the risk inherent in an otherwise agricultural dependent economy. So the study area is southern Niger and northern Nigeria. And these are situated within latitudes of 12 degrees and 15 north and longitudes 5 and 9 east. And they consist of both, as I mentioned, southern Niger and northern Nigeria. So they share a common border running for about 1,608 kilometers from Kebbi State in Nigeria to Borno State in northeast of Nigeria. They also share physical characteristics such as relief, geology, soil types, and climate. And there are many towns and villages at the borders, they are found to enhance human communication, social interaction, movements, and integration are all done with ease because of cultural and physiographic similarities that are common occurrences. So this research was a multi-site research, as we have just mentioned earlier. We have Kano, Katsina, Daura, and Magamajubia in Katsina State as the Nigerian side, and Maradi, Tawa, and Zindar in Niger Republic. We also employed multiple methods such as survey. The survey was done. We had oral interviews, and then we had the ODK, which is just an interview, but on your system or on a phone. And we also had focus group discussions, which were very, very interesting. We had the snowballing technique was used at one point, and this research was both quantitative and qualitative. For the focus group discussion, it was really interesting that when we went into Niger Republic, we tried to discuss with so many villages that we met. That's the sampled villages. But unfortunately, at one point, they were, or at first, they were all resistant. They felt we were spies, and we had come into because at that time that we had started the research, the present government had just come into power. That was around 2016. So they were all thinking we're spies, that Nigeria has sent them to get the names of their wards in Nigeria so that they can deport them back to Niger. So we really had a challenge there. And when we came back to Nigeria, we also had the same problem. Nigerian people are very, very cooperative. They are unified. So when you want to talk to one person, when you come to talk to them, they all, refuse to answer you because they just haven't had anybody of authority telling them to talk to you. So we started by going to search for people in axes that we felt had a lot of migrants. So in Kano, we went to Bachirawa, where we found one place called Kelungulua, and that was just a 33-liter tanker that they used for storing water. That was where we had the breakthrough. The owner of that place told us that we have to go back to the Niger consulate, sought their permission, even though they had given us a paper to go to Niger, that's the laissez-passer. We were there, we had it, but they still insisted that we go back and tell them we now want to interview people in Nigeria, the Nigerian in Nigeria. So we went back, and then they gave us a guide. That guide now took us to every area that had a large number of migrants. So that was the breakthrough we had at that Kelungulua area. After getting so many places, Bachirawa, Ongwa, Uku, in Kano, and we were told that there were Nigerian in areas like in Katsina, we knew of that, in Magamajibia, in Daura. We now traveled everywhere and got our data. So data suggested that migrants were at their prime stages of their lives. So giving preference to people between 16 and 55 years. So this confirms the assertion that migration is a selective process. And of course, we got that Labo that did his own research in Magamajibia also had the same age brackets. So this suggests that age composition of migrants has not changed significantly over the years. So the vibrant part of the population migrates. So leaving behind women, children, the aged and sick, and that we found out also that there were so many ethnic groups, indigenes of Niger, that have migrated to Nigeria. We found the Abzins, the Bugajis, the Buzu, that's Tuareg. There were Fulanis, there were Hausas, there were Kanuris, and Zarma. Hausa is found to be the dominant tribe and may even be the reason for easy flow of migrants into Nigeria, since it is also the dominant tribe at the destination. All migrants from other tribes could either communicate fluently or had a basic competence in Hausa. This confirms all the assertions by Asuaju, Afolayan, and Labo, who are all scholars in migration. On the affinity of resident populations to attract people across the border. And it is also important to note that the dominance of Hausa language could have stemmed from the fact that this Nigeria and Niger were basically the same land. It was just because of the delineation of the border by the colonial masters, you know. So, and it is also amazing to note that years after the demarcation, villages south of Zindar are still referred to as Daurawa. That means that they still are in the Daura Emirate. And you see Daura is in Nigeria while Zindar is in Niger Republic. So for the marital status, we found out that more than half of the men were married, but they practice abstinence at the destination. And as it's mostly those that have permanently migrated that come with their wives. So it is not hard to explain why most of the migrants were not in the company of their spouses. Firstly, it may prove difficult for a person to uproot himself from a close network of friends and family. That's from the origin. And secondly, as a migrant, it is easier to get a job, get residence, maintain oneself, switch in between jobs, and save the extras and send home as remittance. Married persons formed the highest percentage in this research. This is contrary to what Afolayan found in her research in southern Nigeria, that most of the people that practiced transborder movement were single persons. Most married migrants in Nigeria had at least a Nigerian wife, but were not opportune to meet most of the wives. We met just a few of them. However, women that were interviewed, about half of them came to Nigeria to fulfill marital obligations. And where we found another set of women in Daura that had their own peculiar case. We'll come to them later. So for literacy, it is an important asset to human beings, but we found that most of the migrants were not literate. Most of them had not attended any form of schooling. Only few of them had Islamic education. So as I was saying, for the educational background, that most of them did not attend school. The few that attended mentioned they attended the l'école, which is school in French. And the two interesting issues that arose from this scenario is that the first being that even though they all lacked formal education and their levels of Islamic education is quite low, one finds that all migrants that have settled in Kano and environs have enrolled their children in either or both Islamic schools and the conventional schools. And some migrant children we met at Bachirawa were even graduates of Bayero University and Yusuf Mitamasule University here in Kano. Secondly, some of the respondents that came to Nigeria for Islamic scholarship did well to graduate themselves. That's what they would say. They became Gardi, you know, they became, they grew up in the profession, and they are a success story at the moment. One of them is Alhaji Malan, the person that gave us the breakthrough of going to meet the Niger consulate. He has a full-fledged Islamia school, a two-story building with about 12 classes, and he owns that Kelungulua that I mentioned earlier, and he's a very successful business person in the area. When we talk of movement trends for, let's say, migration histories, We've talked about the areas that we've talked about their tribes. So we know they are from Agadez, Dakwaro, Difa, Doso, Maradi, Niamey, Tawa, Tanut, and Zinder. And they all came to, all these were found in Kano, Daura, Katsina, Magama. However, we found, this is the origin destination. You find out that some people have come all the way from Tawa to Rivers State. Some have come from Zinder, Maradi, all to Lagos, Kwara, Nasarawa states. You know, they've gone to the southern part of the country. Some are in the middle belt, some in the north, and all parts of the country see migrants from Niger Republic in one way or the other. These migrants, a majority of them came by road, and they came in taxis, buses, lorries, and they used cars such as the Peugeot 505 or station wagon. Those days were commonly known as Jollof or Dafaduka. And these days they come in Sharon or Gulf. You know, these people, they speed very well. So they like those kind of cars. And some came in buses. Some came in, those that came in the really early, that have like 50 years experience, said they came in a car called Bilhodi. It's like a canter, you know, like a car with a body, the body is of wood, and then it has the carriage of a car. Some simply trekked across the border, whereas some used the beast of burden from their destination. Somebody like Malam Ali said he left home without the consent of his parents, so he was penniless, and he sat for a very long time at the motor park, and then he just saw somebody that normally brings in donkeys into Nigeria to sell and to buy common medicines to return back to Niger. So he asked him to follow him, and the guy agreed. So they trekked for 4 days from Takalafia in Mayi at Maradi to Dankama in Katsina State. And at their destination, when Malam Idi sold his donkeys, he paid for Malam Ali's ride to Kano. And that time it was just 1 naira 50 kobo, you know. So you can see that Malam Ali has been in Nigeria for a very long time. Malam Hassan told us that he paid, that they came to Kano with his friends, that they just trekked from their village. Their village is Awiwi, to where they call Tashar area, where they boarded Sharon, and they paid 150 of their money, and they were dropped at Kwangwalam border that's the border between Nigeria and Niger, and they boarded a car for Tashar Kuka, Kano, and they just paid 2,000 naira. So some, some, as we mentioned earlier, came by car, others just trekked, you know. Somebody else said our village, Mimujia, is a stone's throw from Kwangwalam, the Nigerian border with Niger. So together with his brother and friends, they just they just trekked to Miadua and then to Daura, and they stayed there, you know. So the days they spent in transit, as I mentioned, some just trekked. So they make stopovers in Daura, some at Matamaye, some at Miadua, Zango, Bachirawa, Tasawa, Magama, or Katsina, and they are hosted by family and friends. And once they are there, and there's word that there's a vacancy anywhere around, they just go in to replace whoever is missing. And sometimes a person may find himself to be a lone ranger. He may come in and he doesn't know anybody, but that is how you establish yourself. And you see that those people sometimes come out to be very, very successful. Some of them had places to stay, so they stayed and engaged in water vending. Sometimes you see one person moving from one job to another, As Malan Daud said, he stayed with his brother at Daura. And for months, he was waiting for an opening in Kano. So he engaged in so many jobs. He said he was a water vendor. He became a guard. He did laundry services. And he was also a mason at one point. So when you are on a sojourn, you have to work extra to make ends meet because you don't have a stable salary at the end of the month. So one interesting person we met at Bacharawa was one Malan Sadi, and they call him Shugaba. He said he came to Nigeria by foot and he trekked alongside his guide and the hosts with host of others from Megatari town in Jigawa state to Kano. He said they sojourned at Megatari for 10 days, just enough time to get them some money to proceed on the next phase of their journey. For their trek to Kano, one is required to buy a snack. So they bought a large loaf of bread, and the tradition was to tuck it under your armpit. And it is pinched at intervals. And then one would have a bottle, which we call gura, and that that water serves dual purposes for drinking and for cleaning oneself after urination or defecating. And by the time one finishes that bread, they must have reached Kano. That's a very, very large loaf, you know. So Shugaba came to Nigeria in the 60s. So for their occupations, they had a very varied means of or activities as means of livelihood. These are people that Nigerians are people that, without exception, of practicing Shirani and farming as profession, others worked throughout the year to earn sustenance. So they engaged in Nigeria in very many activities, such as security men. We all know Megadi, you know, that's the one people will say Megad now, you know, it's just security men. They do water vending and masonry, baking. They are very good in baking. They are very good tea makers too. So they are fruit sellers and they are traders. Traders here are many. So some of them have shops or small canteens. They call them trader, you know, and they engage in different economic activities. The women include, you know, partake in laundry services. They call it wankau, and the hair plaiting. And the men also do horse training, cap washing, ring making, iron bending. So I was talking about livelihoods. I said they are very good. They have a positive attitude towards their jobs, where they always use the prefix Aiki in front of. So they would in northern Nigeria that would call maybe the guard just Megadi, or driver, dreba, laborer, you know, laborer, it would be laborer. They would say Aikin Gadi, Aikin Tuki, Aikin Gini, thereby showing that jobs are held with esteem. We have different perspectives to migration, which we see as the purposes of migration. Several factors have been identified for reasons for migration. People move due to an attraction, which could be social, economic, educational, or health. Migrants from Niger Republic that have moved to Nigeria have moved to adapt to environmental changes or seeking for better economic livelihoods, seeking education or disseminating it, and for accessing medical assistance. Hence, all the classes. The environmentally induced factors could be as a consequence of variability of climate and environmental factors. And given the complex concatenations between environment and migration, we all know that there are rippling effects to effects of climatic occurrences. This leads to mitigation and adaptation, and so many factors could be responsible for migration. Hence, a single cause may not be pointed out. But of course, we know environmentally induced factors are very, very important factors in taking decisions. So a considerable number of them migrated due to changes in their immediate environs and resultant effects, which could be decline in agricultural yields, drought, pests, and diseases, which has led to hunger, sickness, and even death. Malenyau, one of those interviewed, said the year they experienced low yield was when his father advised him to come to Kano to find other means of sustenance. Their family friends from the other village that did the same were doing very well, so their father advised him to come, you know. And somebody said these days there is fluctuation in rainfall, but it has not caused the type of drought experienced in the 80s during Shagari's time. Okay, then we have the social factor. Even though we know other push factors are there, but this includes lack of infrastructure that is at the origin. And on the other hand, pull factors are responsible, especially when there are more promising economic opportunities, the supposed attraction of urban areas. And we all know that once migration starts, it reinforces further migration because they set up networks that facilitate the migration and migration systems. The economic migrants are so many in this research, like about 2/3 of them confessed that they were economic migrants. So an economic migrant is a person that leaves his home country to live and seek sustenance in another country with better working or living conditions. So in this research, we found different categories of or different types of migration under this category, and that includes those that partake in Chirani. And Chirani is divided into two. There's Tabirati and there's Kadaraba. And then we have those that came in for Bida. And then we have the business travelers. You know, somebody, Alhaji Laminu, said he came to Kano specifically to get wealthy. And he said, we thank God, like after 44 years, I've left my village. I'm now a successful baker. He has like 3 bakeries in Kano, and he's doing very well. Another person said, explained to us the concept of Chirani. You know, he said Chirani is quite simple and can be seen in 2 ways. After harvest, a person leaves home for the city in search of other forms or other work, instead of waiting home and doing nothing. They just don't believe you should sit and be redundant. So you go and get more money. And then the second part is that you have reduced the number of mouths that are feeding on your silos. So when you start your food in the silos, you now leave so that your people, your family will now feed on the food that you have grown while you go elsewhere and get food. Hence the term eating this dry season away, you know. So we now have the health migrant where they come to Nigeria for health reasons. They all come to somewhere we call the Babaruga Hospital, which is the leprosarium in Katsina State. And due to the uniqueness of leprosy, after being treated, one has to stay and be rehabilitated. So that facility tends to be congested. Then areas around it just sprang up as little villages. And then where the satellite villages, one of them that we went was the Ershanya village. That is where there's a big facility. Even they have a seriki there, like emir for the lepers. Okay, so the next is the educational. The educational migrants came to Nigeria for two purposes. We have two different migrants that are under the educational one. The first group consists of, so they come into Nigeria as almajire, and those are children that are less than 10 years of age, and they come in and engage in schooling till they reach adulthood. And some of them do good to become teachers themselves. Then the second type of migrants under the educational migrants are the teachers that come in. Katsina State shares a border with Niger Republic, so they thought learning the French language was really important. So they now engage teachers from Niger Republic to come in and teach the French language. However, most of them, after the contract had expired, still stayed behind and formed families here. And quite surprisingly, they do not speak the French language to their children. When I asked why, so one of them said they will learn in school, And another interesting one is the migrants that came in pursuit of love, family, and adventure. Some followed their heartthrobs to Kano, and they took jobs here, married the lady, and just continued their life here in Nigeria. Okay, so the diverse actors are the seasonal migrants, which we have explained earlier, the Chirani, the people that come for Chirani, those that come to eat away the dry season, and the economic migrant, who is the Mebida. He came to Nigeria on a blind date. Some of them do not have specifics. They just come to Nigeria to look for better pastures. So he may spend as much time as he wants until he reaches his target. And some of them, while some have certain goals, some do not know what they come in for. They just come and go to the destination. And then, for example, so many of them like coming to Kano. Kano is held in awe, like so many people want to come to Kano. In fact, there are some people that said they came to Nigeria just so that they can partake in conversations where you would hear some people who say, if you have not come to Kano, just keep quiet, shut up, you have not seen anything, So we have the transient migrants. These transient migrants are people that they conduct businesses in Nigeria and leave. They are transporters and proud owners of large trucks and vans, and their travels extend not only to Niger Republic, but other West African countries, and as far as the Central African Republic. They export food, grains, furniture, fruits, clothing, and some of them have two residences in Nigeria and in Niger. And some of them even say like having two homes is advantageous. Those that understand Hausa, let me just see what he said verbatim. He said, dig in the tapat isha, like that means wherever he finds himself between Nigeria and Niger, that it's home. Then we have the lifetime migrants. These are migrants that have settled in Nigeria for good. They have families, engage in trade, interact with the community freely, and have assimilated the language, culture, and values of the host communities. And due to the fact that their skin color is same as the host, one can hardly differentiate between the host and the migrants. They have assimilated and intermarried, but most of them usually take their first wives from Niger, then other wives are Nigerians, Okay, then the women. Some of the women came in as brides or wives, and they engage in economic activities such as hair braiding, selling of secondhand goods, as we call guanjo, and they do the laundry services, wankau. And in Daura, we found a new way or a wave of women that some are married, some widowed, a good number are spinsters, but they come into Nigeria to engage in farming or post-harvest activities. They do domestic chores such as cleaning, cooking, and babysitting, and some even engage in begging. And we found out that they came to Nigeria to either buy or keep, to buy it for sustenance. Some came into so that they can be able to raise money for a sick relative, some to raise money to buy things for a bride, a daughter, and some came for the fun of it, actually. And they are referred to as DRYLANDS. So the children of the migrants, these are a very interesting set of people. Even though they were born and bred in Nigeria, most of them still pay allegiance to Niger Republic, as they refer themselves as Nigerian. They call themselves Niger. You know, they do not say they are Nigerians. At Naibawa, Rijiyar Lemo, and Sabangarin Doka, they came promptly when they were summoned as part of the focus group discussion. They were part of the Nigerian Association, with some of them holding executive positions, and one could see the pride, enthusiasm, and dedication to the Nigerian cause. They were quick to attend the FGD and eager to ask questions, and they were even more challenging than their elders. You know, they thought we were undercover agents, and someone said, this is one advantage of being educated. We can read, verify, and ask questions, lest our parents are tricked into giving out information that would lead to their deportation. And somebody said they are legal migrants. Most of them have papers from the Niger Consul here in Kano, and have been doing, and they have been living and doing business peacefully in Nigeria. So most of them would have stayed in Nigeria for so long, and they send remittances back home in the form of cash, food grains, new and used clothing, furniture, and other basic needs. These days, they send money through transfer. They call the agent NITA, you know, and it's so swift, you know, they transfer money easily and they receive easily in Niger Republic. The outcome of this research, we found that migration follows relationships. When you have relationship with people in Nigeria, you can easily be summoned from Niger to come to Nigeria to take up a job or hold on for somebody that has traveled or is sick. And it also follows a pattern along road axis. You know, the roads from Niger leading into Nigeria are all very good roads. So like that gives the ease, you know, of traveling. And then proximity too, because sometimes, as I said, some just trek across the border, and they just see it as just going to the next neighborhood. And then the hubs and markets, you know, there's this thought that Kano or the Nigerian cities are large hubs, and of course we have large markets. Some have said they have been in Dawano market since in 1985. That is about the largest grain market around here. So it's really, really important to them. Okay. So in conclusion, migration flow from southern Niger to northern Nigeria has shown consistent increase through the years. And this could be attributed to so many reasons, of which, of course, climate change is one, but of course, other things have all contributed. However, due to the livelihood pattern of migrants, especially Shirani and the Bida type, they come to the destination irrespective of climatic conditions at the origin. They even say if it is heat, it is also hot in Nigeria. So like there's no much difference. But one has to note that the porous nature of our borders and lack of documentation has made this migration very, very easy between Niger and Nigeria. So many of them just come in at ease and or at will, and that makes movement very, very easy. I would like to acknowledge Bayero University Kano and my supervisors, Dr. L.F. Buba and Professor J.A. Falola, and my mentors, Professor A.I. Tanko and Y.M. Adamu. I also would like to thank the National Open University of Nigeria for giving me the chance to present this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Informative, very informative lecture that you have given us this afternoon. Without much waste of time, I can see hands up, and let me start from our emeritus, Professor Godwin Sogolo. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. The director has said it all. I want to congratulate the presenter, Dr. Lima, for a very lucid, clear presentation. But the thing I value most in the presentation is the information from the beginning to the end. You know, just getting one point, the other, learning about what migration means in the area she's referring to. It is a very interesting presentation. Congratulations. There are a few questions I want to ask. One of them has to do with the attitude of the migrants. Migrants, that is those coming from Niger to Nigeria. You said somewhere that the children of the migrants do not see themselves as Nigerians, that they rather remain as Nigerian. What it means is that it means they don't blend, or you have to make this point clear. Do they blend into the Nigeria communities where they migrate to, or do they form, communities of their own in Nigeria, such as you have of, the stranger elements in Kano, for instance, the Igbos who have their own areas and so forth. That's the first thing. I'm not too clear about that. But the other thing I want to also ask is this. The children of migrants who are successful in Nigeria, do they still have allegiance to Niger, or do they feel the country that had made them successful is the country to which they belong? I'm really talking, the two questions are almost the same. I'm talking about the loyalty of the migrants to Nigeria. Thank you very much. It's a very, very clear presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. At this juncture, I want to...
Thank you very much. Well, I want to join others in congratulating you, Dr. Miriam Lima. Excellent. I did not wake up in vain from my location. I have learning has occurred. So I want to say that the ghost of Professor Uba Adamu continues in the sense that he admonished us to engage in ethnographic methodology when we started, and you have demonstrated the exigency, the validation of that ethnographic methodology, as opposed to just coming up with theories and concepts, or what we call the armchair reproduction of knowledge. You have really, really done an excellent work, in my opinion. You have validated and to partly answer the question from the Professor Emeritus, the issue of triadic relationship. You may want to check out some of these concepts. You have done it. Triadic relationship is a concept developed by Joseph Harris, and we use it in teaching the African diaspora, people of African descent, anywhere they found themselves. These folks not only have reasons for migrating, but they also recreated themselves. And that, of course, poses another question of their loyalty and citizenship. You have also demonstrated to us and validated the concept of biographical pedagogical discourse, meaning that knowing important or insignificant men and women, and even children, in the trajectory of analysis would bring to us a better understanding of the situation, and we can also formulate policies. Indeed, your presentation is a validation of the fact that the humanities is so important. Humanities generally, meaning social sciences, arts, and whatever. And that STEM cannot survive without it. That is the key message here. You've also told us about the fact that the SAMBO, S-A-M-B-O, view that some of us in history also used to teach the African diaspora in terms of either forced migration or voluntary migration is invalidated, that these people were not passive, right? They just didn't fold up their arms. They showed their skills. They brought value to the economy. As intangible as it may sound at the beginning, but also very tangible in the long run. You've showcased that through this ethnographic, analysis. I was going to ask a question, and I think I will put it in this way instead of a question, that you may want to, in the, another work, look at a comparative analysis of this migration and the border, looking at Mexico and the United States, and then Niger and Nigeria. See how people in your presentation are able to come in with ease. But in Mexico, you have all these walls being, between US and this. But again, I thank you so much for this brilliant ethnographic presentation. And I want to wish Madam Director happy birthday again. Thank you for this opportunity. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful contribution. Thank you. We appreciate you. Let me go as is showing on my screen. The next person is Dr. Emina.
Director, can I just ask one?
Pardon? Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes.
Let's allow you, sir.
I forgot. There was a point I wanted to raise. I just forgot. Dr. Lima said that the practice for most of migrants is for them to marry a wife who is Nigerian, the first wife, Nigerian, and then other wives, Nigerians. She didn't explain why that is so. I just want if you can just explain why it is so.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm sure she is taking notes because she will respond when we finish taking the comments and questions. So, Dr. Emina, sir, over to you.
Yeah, please, my video is not stable. Please let me give the honor to Professor Abdallah Adamu to please ask his question before I come in, if you don't mind. Professor Adamu, please.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
I wanted him to crown it all after listening to everybody.
No problem. Okay. No problem. Go ahead.
And Dr. Mina, go ahead. He will speak last.
Go ahead.
The biggest masquerade dances last. So,
Professor, speak last.
So
Okay, thank you.
biggest masquerade. Thank you.
Lima, that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. I think your work will actually assist me because currently I'm doing a work on migration and occupational shifts. Mentioning these migrant workers from Niger has actually opened my eyes more because I grew up in Port Harcourt, and growing up in Port Harcourt, we've had quite a number of them who are Megads, you know. And each time I look at them, I'm trying to now recall from what you have just said. Each time one of them, you know, comes in and is at the gate, before you know, there are about 4, 5, 6 of them, you know, that will always come around there. And the person that will always bring them, each time he's leaving, he will come and tell the person I'm working with them to say, madam, I'm leaving, no, but my brother will stay put. Before you know, they're like that. So they keep, recycling themselves. The man is very old now as I speak to you. He's never gone back. So when I saw your map, you know, that they leave Niger, moving towards South, River State, Port Harcourt in particular. So I now know why, you know. However, my interest is this in your work is the fact that you have discussed more the migrants from Niger, but you didn't tell us more what the Nigerians, you know, the Nigerians that you actually portrayed in your introduction, that they also migrate to Niger, you know, what kind of occupation they engage, because Nigeria being a bigger economy, I would have been surprised to see Nigerians migrating the other way, you know, for what purposes, you know. So I had expected that you give us an insight into that. Also, the social integration, you never mentioned much about that, because I'm also concerned about how they integrate, like emeritus professor has asked, and then their contribution to national development. Because when people don't socialize, like you rightly said, the children of the migrants claim to be Nigerians. So what are their, you know, contributions to national development in the place they have migrated to? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the next person is Mr. Olusoji Ajao.
Thank you, Dr. Lima, for your presentation. It's very fantastic and robust. Now, I'm interested in when you call about porous border between Nigeria and Niger. And for me, I don't seem to agree with that, because we try to look at our issues from Eurocentric perspective. We define our problem according to how Europeans tell us these are problems. I understand that in EU, there's a Schengen visa, which allows an Italian to go to France without visa and to enter. And again, why do we have to problematize a problem where an issue where there is no problem? And what you mentioned again is, I understand there is a Maham Abacha University in Niger. I understand that there are about 50,000 Nigerians schooling there. They go from Kano, they come back. So it's more of a symbiotic connection or migration flows between Nigeria and Niger. It's not a kind of a parasitic kind of flow from Niger to Nigeria, but it's more of a symbiotic. Nigerians choose to go there to actualize some of their educational goals and needs. And as I speak to you now, that university in Niger started there, and now they are trying to get NUC approval to start Maham Abacha University in Nigeria, another session. So basically, that's my own conception. If you look at, don't let us frame our problem with Eurocentric, okay, our border is porous. This is a problem coming to us. We can live as brothers and sisters. That's how we've been living before Africa was balkanized by European colonizers. So I rest my case there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dao, for that comment. The next person on this screen is Professor Aneto. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. I thank you, and I thank the presenter for her presentation. I'm a student of science, so listening to her reminds me of my days of the classes in history. And you find that really it appears that migration, depending on the pathway you are taking or the axis, this time you are looking at something we may call trans-Sahara pathway, if you like. You can also trace one from the east through Cameroon and so on, different parts of Nigeria. So I think I gained a lot. Now, my question after phrasing it, some people, they've asked questions from different perspectives, but I will just put it this way, that I have drawn a number of inferences given our contemporary situation in Nigeria. And I want to ask the presenter what her inference may be as to the contribution of that axis of migration to Nigeria's politics and economics. The other one, or the other aspect taken together, is, does she see a possible contribution of that pathway of migration to Nigeria's present security situation and smuggling, given that she clearly stated that the border is porous, a concept I share? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, for the contribution and your question. Yes, I have two big guns here, but since I have said Professor Abdallah will speak last, I will allow Professor Kagbari to go next. Prof, sir, over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. And I want to thank the presenter for the good presentation. Part of my question has been actually been asked by Professor Aneto, because throughout the presentation, I didn't see her bringing migration from Niger Republic to Nigeria and how it affects our security challenges. Because we all know that there was a time the president of the nation told us that most of these migrants, most of these terrorists, they are coming from Niger and from other countries like Libya and like that. And because our borders are very porous, we see that a lot of these terrorists, either sometimes we are told that they push back into Niger and Chad. So I don't know if she averted her mind to this aspect. How does this migration affect our security? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for making that point and question. I want to finally call on Professor Abdallah to cram it all with his question or comments.
Well, I was the last because I had to go to the mosque for the early afternoon prayers. So I didn't get the last bit of what she presented, but mine is to add some comments on that. Professor Okakbere talked about porous borders and terrorism. I think it's overblown. Because I was recently in Niger Republic and I followed through a very irregular way, even though it was official. I mean, there were Nigerian as well as Nigerian border officials and security at both ends. But it was a fairly straightforward matter. It's not like people are sneaking in with guns and arms and things like that. It was very, very regular. But I think it was a little bit overblown, really. They have to find a scapegoat, and the Nigerians make a very convenient scapegoat. My observation about the paper is that this is one of those papers that refers to the flu. People are talking about Japa in Italy, in France and Germany and so on. Now we're looking at Japa within. But it is not just simply about running away from horrible situations, because anybody who lives in Nigeria for the last 5 years or so will be surprised at the fact that someone from another place will want to come to Nigeria. So at least it just shows us that Nigeria is not as bad as we all thought it to be. What fascinated me about her respondents was the fact that they insist that she has to get a clearance from their consulate. This is tremendous. I mean, these are people from all her data. They're not educated. So they don't have a high level of consular education or diplomatic education. And yet they were responsible enough to demand that you have to go to their consulate and get clearance from the consulate for them to talk about Niger. And it's amazing. It shows nationalism, it shows patriotism, and most importantly, it shows law and order, that these people are willing to live within a society by the rules and regulations of that particular society. And anybody who interfaces with people from Niger Republic will get that. I've been going in and out of Niger for quite a while, and their sense of order, their sense of patriotism is just simply amazing. And I'm glad this paper has brought this out. That's very, very critical. But mine is also at the same time wanted to ask, what about their level of integration? Do they participate in public culture, or do they isolate themselves? You know, like in Kano, the Igbos isolate themselves in a particular area, and you really don't, it's like a no-go area. You don't go in, they don't come out. What about these Nigerians? I mean, they are more or less Hausa, of course. So to what level do they really integrate themselves? Do they go about with an unseen placard saying, I'm not a Nigerian, I'm a Nigerian, you know, I'm from Maradi, I'm from Tawa, I'm from Yamai, and so on. Do they do that, or they're a conscious effort to integrate? I'm surprised at the tribes, multiple tribes. I think we don't have tribes. What we have are ethnicities. A tribe is a collection of people that do not recognize any nation. But so long as you recognize there is a nation, there is a central government, then you're no longer tribes, but ethnicities, like England. England, they have tribes, of course. You have Wales, you have Scottish, you have Irish, but you can't call them tribes. You call them ethnicities, not just because of language, but because they have distinct cultural identities, but they all recognize a central government. A collection of people who recognize a central government. This is just simply ethnicities rather than tribes. And I'm also fascinated by their occupation, you know, the level of occupation that they do. They do things that other people probably will not do, and they are very good at it. For years, I had about 2 of them in my house as my security, and I was very, very impressed with what they do. Never stole anything, never broke anything. And for 5 years, I was away from the house, and they are the only ones in the house. We never missed anything. So their level of integrity and sense of order and desire to live peacefully is just amazing. And I think this is one aspect of migration that needed to be brought out very clearly. In other cases of migration, you have Nigerians going somewhere and committing crime, like in UAE. That is why up to now, Nigerians are not allowed in UAE, because when they go there, they commit all these crimes. And yet here we have poor people coming to a poor country, but living a very rich life. I think this is the message that comes out very clearly. Thank you very much, Dr. Mariam, for this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for that extensive comments. Now, our presenter will attempt to address the concerns and the comments, if necessary, as given by the different participants in this webinar. So over to you, ma'am, starting from Emeritus Professor Sogolo to the very last person. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma. Professor Sogolo mentioned he wanted to know of their integration. I think that is also what Professor Abdullah is talking about. See, they socialize with Nigerians. They attend weddings. They do so much. They go to the mosque like every other person does. They are part of the society, but it's just that they do not call themselves Nigerians. You know, sometime I presented a paper at Association of Nigerian Geographers conference in Lagos, and somebody was like, and that was almost the time that our 2019 election was going to take place. And somebody was like, let these people not come and, you know, like assimilate and vote as Nigerians. And I told him, no, they do not identify themselves as Nigerians. They call themselves Nigerian. They are proud of that, you know. And they do every other thing with every other person in the society, in the community. As I mentioned somewhere, Alhaji Malam is one person that owns virtually the whole of his neighborhood. He has all the, he's the landlord. He owns the school there. He owns Kelungulua, which is the source of livelihood there. You know, like Kelungulua is a very large 33 liters tanker, which serves as reservoir. You know, that's where people come to fetch water. That's where all the megarua, that's the water vendors, that's where they come to buy water, you know. So, and even the generator that he's using there serves several houses around and the school. So you see, he's there, he's serving the community, and he's a very prominent person there. And he's also a grains merchant, you know, he has a shop somewhere. So it's like they integrate. Those that we met at Ungwa Uku, they integrate, they do business with other people. It's just that they just call themselves Nigerian. Even the children, they identify as Nigerian. They hold posts in their, what do you call it, in their associations, you know. They are there and they are proud to say who they are. And yes, they are successful and they contribute because it's an economy. They are doing business, you know. They are running an economy, you know. So it's like they are helping in moving the economy forward because they have legitimate businesses. They do these things. And of course, we know that once you do a business in a country and you are very good at what you are doing, of course, you contribute towards the economy of the country. And yes, it's a very good one. I'm going to look at the comparative analysis of the Mexican border, Mexican US border, and the Nigerian.
Sorry, presenter.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me remind you the second concern of Professor Sogolu. The second concern was that you said they marry Niger wives and then they will not marry Nigerians after. I think something about those wives. Why? So just for you to get it.
I think the only, maybe the only reason for that is because, you know, they get married really early over there. Somebody may just be 17 years and get married, you know, and of course you will have your first wife. So when you are coming to Nigeria, you, especially those that have stayed in Nigeria, they have stayed back. There's something in the discussion, but because you were like, I should round up, I just skipped it. We call it de-agranization. That de-agranization is a process whereby people leave their agricultural livelihood and they come back and, you know, to other livelihoods that are non-agricultural. So when they are coming to Nigeria, they come to Nigeria and if the work they are doing, they are happy with it, they end up staying back in Nigeria. So those people that have de-agranized end up bringing back their wives. They'll call their first wife to come, and then here you see them marrying a second wife, a third wife. Sometimes those wives may even be the Nigerian, you understand? But mostly amongst them, you find a second wife or a third wife that is a Nigerian, you know? So it's not any design, you know, that you have to marry a Nigerian wife first. The Nigerian wife could be first, but you could marry one cousin, a distant cousin, you know, especially when you have started doing well, everybody will be like, see wife, you understand? So it's like, sometimes it's not like by design that you have to marry a Nigerian wife first and others will, it could be anything, but then they do take wives from home. You know, you find that most of them have a Nigerian as a wife. Okay, so the next question by Dr. Emina. When I was describing the study area, I just mentioned Nigeria and Niger, but I did not say that Nigerians go to Niger. The flow is from Niger to Nigeria. That was what we studied. So it was not about Nigerians going into Niger. It was about Nigerians that come into Nigeria. And I think it's good that you recognized that your MEGAD, and knowing that, yes, that is the pattern. You know, they always will bring somebody. That's why I said relationship when I was talking about the outcomes. Relationships count a lot. When you have somebody in Nigeria, there's always a call, just one phone call. We need somebody to come and stand in for somebody else, or there's a new opening for a job. Somebody should be sent to come and take up the job. So that's it. Okay. Then, Mr. Ajao, you mentioned about cross-border documentation. What I just meant there is we don't have to be, stop people from crossing the border, but it would be good if we have some form of documentation. You just come to the border, you pass, you go. It's not like the people that come in and go out. There's no documentation. The car just comes to the border and it passes, and that's it. It's not, so there's the need that if you are going into Niger, the Nigerian government knows that so person has left the country. I'm a Nigerian, I've gone into Niger. Okay, this is where I've gone. I should be accounted for at one time or the other. And the person that has come into Nigeria too should be known that so person has come into Nigeria and he should be accounted for. And these are things that the immigration service should look into. Nobody is saying you should harass people or you shouldn't, but just the documentation would be very good. And you are talking about the Mariam Abacha University. Mariam Abacha University is already functional. It's a stone's throw from me here, when we had the strike, they took the advantage and they have so many students now. So Mariam Abacha University is owned by a Nigerian. It's not owned by a Nigerian, it's owned by a Nigerian. And yes, he went to Niger and set up the university, and he has a campus here in Kano too. So it's a good thing. Yes, we like such operations, like if you see a viable market elsewhere, it's good. You go there and form your business. But the movement should be monitored so that even the migrants, we can know that this is a secular migrant, this is a return migrant, this is somebody that has de-agranized. He's a permanent or lifetime migrant. He's staying in Nigeria. We should be able to categorize all those migrants at one point or the other, Okay. Professor Aneto, you talked about what contribution. So as I mentioned, they are contributing to the economy because they are all doing good business. And they are doing the menial jobs that Nigerians don't want to do. They are cutting the nails, they are shoe shiners, they are garua, that's water vendor, they make bread. If you go from Kano as you're going to around Miltara, you see a lot of bread there, abundance of bread. They are mostly baked by Nigerian bakers. Those are those people I was telling you. They said they came to Nigeria to get rich, and they claim like they have three bakeries, so they are doing very well. Okay. For security challenges, I think Professor Abdullah has talked about that. Really, I think I believe him that it's overblown. And when we started this research, in fact, there was even nothing like insecurity issues between Nigeria and in Nigeria. So it was a relatively peaceful. In fact, if you enter Niger, honestly, even when the crisis started, if you enter Niger, you have this sense of peace. You just feel security, because these people, as Prof mentioned, are people of law and order. They do not, when they break the law, they pay for it. When you are traveling whenever I'm traveling from Kano to Niger, all the villages I pass, or all the towns and villages or settlements I pass from Kano to Niger border, Kwangwalam, the lights are all on. all the lights outside are on, security lights are on. As soon as you cross the border into Niger, as far as it's afternoon, you don't see any light on because they pay their bills, you know, whoever, whether you're a village person, if you have light, you pay for that light. But in Nigeria, we don't do that, you understand? So like these people have law and order relatively more than us, you know, they abide by the rules, you know? And yes, my next paper is, I'm looking at this integration, these issues of integration, and we hope to see how it is. But of course, I said they attend naming ceremonies, weddings, they pray in the same mosques, they do everything with us. The only thing they just do is they have their associations, like how we have associations of people of different ethnicities here in Kano. So they also have their associations and they do their thing. So thank you very much. I think Ma, I've answered all the questions, right?
Yeah, you have attempted to answer all the questions.
Okay.
On my own part, I would say that, well, I think the Niger people, I think they are trying for protecting their territory. Like you have rightly observed, maybe it is our own territory that is porous, because I think many of them enter this country without anybody checking them, and some of them become nuisances in our own country too. So maybe we really need to tighten up and make things work, make things work well, like this security issue. Because most of the time when we get people that have done something, the report most times is that they are from Niger. I don't know whether they are lying, no, but Niger is always focusing on any bad thing that happens around here, especially in the north, and not the Nigerians per se. So it means that we Nigerians have left our homes open for them to come in while they protect their own personal opinion. Thank you so much for answering the questions. And except there are more questions, if not.
No, Director, no question, just an observation.
Yes,
and it's a personal observation. I am seriously thinking of migrating to Maradi.
That's a nice one, sir.
Migrating to where?
We'll come
Maradi,
visit.
that's in Niger. Honestly, I am seriously thinking of migrating there.
Yeah.
So we'll come visiting.
The only thing that will retain me in Nigeria is Professor Sogolu. If I move there, I won't be able to talk to him. So that's why I will stay back in Nigeria. But honestly, if you go to Maradi, spend just few days in Maradi, you don't want to leave. So simple. But because of Sogolo, I will stay in Nigeria for now.
Happy birthday, man. Wishing you many happy returns of the day.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, National Open University.
You have done very well. So maybe you want to round off for us. It looks like everybody has asked the question or made the comments they wanted to. So let's hear from you finally before we call it a day. It's been a long time, and the internet showed us Pepe at the beginning, but now has stabilized. Thank you. So let's hear from you, our presenter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, National Open University, for giving me this chance to speak. And I'm very happy to meet all of you. Your comments are well taken, and I will look into all the issues that you have raised. So maybe another time I'll be back to present on integration or on comparative analysis, as the case may be. So thank you very much. I'm very much grateful. Professor Sogolo, thank you. Professor Abdallah Uba, thank you for reaching out. I'm very grateful.
Okay, thank you so much, our presenter. I didn't hear the last word, but I want to say thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and enlightening us about what is happening between Nigeria and Nigerians. I think I would really know how to call them well, because the two of them sound the same. Because you can say Nigerians, but because it's called, say Nigerians, maybe in a French way, French manner, better. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. We appreciate it, and hope that you will write up this paper as a manuscript for review.
Okay, bye.
All right, so I want to say bye-bye and thank you. Please kindly write up your paper as a manuscript that you can present for possible peer review and publishing it in our esteemed journal, our international journal for migration and global studies. We'll be happy to have your paper reviewed and published if it is okay with our standard in that journal. It's an international journal and we publish papers that are of high quality. So we're expecting to hear from you. We'll send you our author's guide so that you look at it and try to write up your paper for presentation after review.
Okay, thank you.
Review, at least 2 people will review your paper. Thank you so much. I want to thank all my senior colleagues and everybody on this platform. Sorry about the internet connectivity that has been a bit problematic today, but all the same, we have achieved our presentation. See you all in a fortnight. Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye, sirs. Bye-bye all.
Bye-bye.